Welcome back. So today we're going to go back in time. Back in time to, I wish it was a happier time and a happier place, but it's not. This year marks the 44th anniversary of the James Ruppert murder case in Ohio. On March 31st, 1975, James Ruppert annihilated his entire family and extended family, 11 members of his family, in their home, his mother's home, matter of fact. And it all stemmed over an argument and hatred that he had for his own brother. Yes, his own biological brother. James Ruppert, age 41 at the time, killed all 11 members of his family and extended family that were home at the time in his mother's home. The victims were the following: his mother, Charity, his brother, Leonard, who he hated, his sister-in-law, Alma, and their 8 children. Leonard III, age 17, Michael, age 16, Thomas, age 15, Carol, age 13, Anne, age 12, David, age 11, Teresa, age 9, and John, age 4. 11 members of one family annihilated because of the hatred that James Ruppert had with his own brother. Now, it depends on which version of the story you read, or which narrative you want to follow. But James hated his brother for multiple different reasons. One, his mother was always taking Leonard's side, and this really infuriated James. James, who was struggling at the time to make ends meet and get by, needed some assistance, needed the help of his mother, someone to rely on. Now, Leonard was a medium build individual, not too heavy, not too thin, average. It was about 5'8" in height, just under 6 feet. But James was described at that by neighbors and friends who knew the family as small and diminutive, a weak individual. This is how people within the neighborhood, who were not necessarily mutual friends, described James as James grew up: small and diminutive. Leonard, lanky and muscular. At the same time, they would use terms like that to describe one brother over the other. But James really could not stand his brother. He couldn't stand that every time he needed help, Mom was always helping Leonard and his basket of kids. And that was his own words, a basket of kids, as how he saw it. So on March 31st, the day after Easter, he went to the home. He killed his brother Leonard first, shot him 3 times at close range while he was making food for the family. Then went into the living room, killed his mother next, who was always putting up and supporting Leonard, and then killed his sister-in-law, Alma. And James went after each and every one of them, shot them, killed them right then and there. 11 members of the family. When it came to the point where they needed to bury the family, the local Catholic church there, who was going to be handling the services and the funeral home, had to wait to actually do the funeral so they could order in enough caskets. James was originally convicted of 2 counts of first-degree murder. The one for killing his brother, Leonard, and for killing his mother. 2 counts of first-degree murder to be served at the same time. And he was found not guilty by reason of a mental insanity of killing the 9 others, the 8 children and his sister-in-law. Now, like it or not, there is a high probability that James Ruppert was actually mentally insane far, far before he ever came to the house that day on March 31st, 1975, to kill the family. He had all the signs of someone who had a mental break snapped days before this actual happened. And the last trigger that may have pushed him over the edge was when he called the family home to speak to the mother, and Leonard refused to allow James to ask their mother, for money. That may have been the last straw, the one thing that flipped the switch in his head, and he decided right then and there that Leonard and his mother both needed to die. And if he did, and if this is really what happened, James Ruppert is still mentally insane to this very day. He could have received more intensive counseling and psychotherapy and medication to deal with the issue that he had. But because of budget cutbacks from the federal level, passed down through the state level, through the penitentiary, there at the Allen Correction Institute in Lima, James Ruppert killed 11 people on March 31st, 1975. 11 members of the family. He annihilated in an instant almost 600 years of combined humanity from one family. James Ruppert is up for parole here in about 2 weeks in April of 2019 on these charges. And right now, there are 2 members and family members, friends of family, 2 members of the family and 2 friends of the family who are alive still, who will go and testify against and give a statement at the parole hearing when James Ruppert comes up for parole. From the outside looking in on the case, James Ruppert has been a model citizen within the penitentiary. He has had a couple of marks against him, but in 44 years, 2 or 3 marks that were nothing serious is not going to keep him in prison forever. He is in his 80s today, but can we afford to keep him in prison? Is he really a threat to society? That's something that the parole board must decide when he comes up for parole here in April. Now, I want to tell you a little bit about the family. I'm going to go by each and every one of the members now that we know just what kind of a sick, twisted individual annihilates their entire family. James's mother, Charity. Charity sang in the choir in her local church and was a member of the Women's Auxiliary of the Knights of Columbus. She enjoyed her free time volunteering within her community in a community garden and looking after others who were unable to get out, especially in the winter months there in Ohio, to get things from the store. Her and other women would gather together to drive to the store to pick up small groceries for elderly shut-ins, people who could not get out to the stores. His brother Leonard. Leonard was a hard-working individual. He wasn't what you would call very book smart, but he was very street smart individual. He knew how to work, and he worked his butt off to provide for his 8 children, and was always constantly looking for ways to give back. And whenever he had $5 left in his pocket and his children were taken care of, he gave his $5 away. A great man. Killed because his mother wanted to help him, or because James was jealous that he didn't have the life and the love and support that he felt that he was needed. His sister Alma, sister-in-law Alma, sorry, Alma was there's not very much known about her, other than that she adored Leonard, and she was a great homemaker in herself, and because of circumstances that happened where they were living in their own place and they were able to afford their own place, they had to move in with Leonard and James's mother because the place that they were living in, the owner decided he didn't want to rent the place anymore and he wanted to sell the home, and they needed to vacate. But they always paid their rent. They always took care of their obligations. But it also should be noted that Charity, James and Leonard's mother, she needed the help. She needed someone who could constantly be there to help her out around the home on Minor Avenue, because it needed work. It was an older home that was falling apart, and Leonard, and Alma and their children, it gave them a home. It gave them a place to, feel safe, and they were there with their grandmother, so they loved it. Of the 8 children, there's only a little bit known publicly about, 3 of them. Leonard III, age 17, was a naturist. He loved to be out into the wild, and he was friends with just about everyone in the neighborhood. Winter months, he would go shovel sidewalks and driveways for free to help others in the neighborhood. A great, coming, young man, age 17, and had his life taken away from him. Michael, age 16, was athletic, and he desired to play maybe baseball professionally someday, but he was yet another young man, growing up in a time when he was not doing anything wrong, and he certainly didn't deserve what was going to happen to him on this night. But that is about all that is known about those 2. The only other one where there is anything known of is David, the son who was age 11 at the time. David frequently volunteered with his grandmother with the Women's Auxiliary of Knights of Columbus, and he would often show up, and he'd love to be around and help set up for bingo, and he wanted to help grandma. But that's about it, for the family. I'm sure there's more out there, and I'm sure James Ruppert could care less about anybody knowing about the family that he annihilated because of a beef he had with his brother. But I hope you enjoyed what little about the James Ruppert case that I was able to actually bring forth to you today. But I mainly wanted to do it because I wanted to draw the attention to that James Ruppert, after 44 years in the penitentiary for murdering 11 members of his family, is up for parole. In one side note, though, if you would take the Christopher Watts case and you moved it to Ohio from Colorado, Christopher Watts would be up for parole eventually. Even though his crime is just as horrific as the Ruppert case, he would eventually receive parole. But he was convicted in Colorado for his heinous crimes, and he will never see parole. That's the way the law works. Doesn't matter where they move him to. You stay safe out there.